Sea lions and fishermen are the usual sights along the treacherous waters of the Shelikof Straits and the southern peninsula of Alaska. Waters so treacherous and remote that priorities have left them uncharted. Fishermen would plot their own courses by their own whims or from tales of past voyages. Long neglected, Shelikof Straits was charted the summer of '75 by the NOAA ship Fairweather. The Fairweather is one from a fleet of hydrographic survey vessels of the National Ocean Survey based at the Pacific Marine Center in Seattle. Her mission to provide data for production of nautical charts. The area, the mercurial Shelikof Straits, a region feared for abrupt weather changes and uncharitable anchorings. This week, we take our chances along with the crew of the Fairweather in the Shelikof Straits to chart the uncharted. The NOAA ship Fairweather is one of a fleet of research and survey vessels operated by the National Ocean Survey, a major element of the U.S. Commerce Department's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Today, the National Ocean Survey rides in the vanguard of a highly sophisticated service, which not only includes man's confrontations with the sea, but also the oceans of the air. A service in which women like Lieutenant J.G. Debbie Askell now play an expanding role, and distances are measured with the blink of a laser light and artificial satellites capable of determining the extent of the Earth's wobble. Despite the changing methods, there is still no substitute for a day's work. And launch crews are ready and loaded and underway by 8:30 in the morning. Seldom more than an hour away from the ship, they return around 5 or 6 that evening. The primary mission of the Fairweather is coastal hydrographic surveys, gathering information on shoreline, depths, and currents for the National Ocean Survey's Nautical Chart Series. The ship's 4 hydrographic launches are used to gather this data in water too shallow for ship operations. The Fairweather's assigned area covered 3,500 square miles from Kodiak Island across the straits and along the coastline of the Mount Katmai National Monument. Uncharted until this past summer, the coastline of Shelikof Straits harbors a bewildering array of bays and inlets. Among them, Geographic Harbor, unnamed until this century, when a National Geographic team came in to explore the aftermath of Mount Katmai's cataclysmic eruption in 1912. Leapfrogging among the series of bays, each launch is assigned the responsibility to complete a sheet or section of the total area to be surveyed. A Mini Ranger navigation system is set up on shore to sight the launch and to maintain its course by radio.
Stand by. Mark it. Repeat, 185.
One of the essentials before charting an area is to secure accurate tidal patterns. Debbie Askell explains.
Depths that we get from the fathometer are the true depths at that time, but the depths that will appear on the chart when the chart is printed are not the depths that we took, but the corrected depths. So we have to know for each second or minute of the survey exactly what the stage of the tide was, so that at a later date we can go back and at this minute to that sounding add or subtract what the tide was.
Now, some people open their wallet and show pictures of their kids and things. He shows pictures of his family.
Yeah, I know.
Anywhere you want to make it.
Stand by.
157520. Repeat, 157520.
Setting up along a visually unobstructed piece of shoreline, the Mini Ranger is aligned with another pre-established point. Then measuring the angle of the launch at timed intervals, the operator relays that information to the officer aboard.
146110. Repeat, 146110.
The process is also monitored by onboard computers, which aid in positioning the equipment. Part of the hydroplot system of acquiring survey data, which allows decisions concerning the accuracy and completeness of a survey to be made in the field. Earl Crick, Chief Survey Technician, records the day's gathering of data. 3 separate sources of information are entered. The original survey information, tide conversion tables, and electronic corrections for unavoidable errors. The ultimate product for the night is a plotted worksheet.
I'm just trying to think now. By skewing the sheet, we could.
The tools of the trade also include aerial photographs, which, among other things, not only provides instant data on coastal areas altered by storms and other natural hazards, but also is used during the actual survey. The existence of an unidentified mass, for example, in the photo, may then be established as kelp, sea lions, or a rock just below the surface.
Just about make a 22-inch wide sheet now.
These can then be verified by the field editing party.
It is. And the one right there? There must be a rock or something that comes out from that point.
Must be.
I'll have to check that again.
With relentless precision, the plotter records the data for its ultimate product, the nautical chart, which will be finished about 1.5 years after the survey, and without which there is no safety at sea. Not in the era of clipper ships and paddle wheelers, and especially not in our own era of recreational craft by the millions, super tankers, submarines, and teeming harbors. For the NOAA Ship Fairweather and others like her, it is an endless task. For the coast is constantly changed by man and by nature, and the province of this survey has increased accordingly. The few thousand miles of general coastline in the early 1800s have become today more than 100,000 miles, including Alaska, Hawaii, and the Great Lakes. Today, the weather is calm and the water quiescent. Tomorrow, the launches may be forced to race to safety, subject to the capricious forces of nature and the storm-tossed fury of Shelikof Strait. Names change, situations differ. But each year, the saga continues, along with the spirit of adventure and dedication, which has always been the hallmark of the National Ocean Survey, America's oldest scientific agency. For the crew of the NOAA Ship Fairweather off the coast of Kodiak Island, R&R comes in many forms. Off-duty hours frequently reflect the active spirits, which for the most part make up the 67-member crew. Strengthened to permit operations in Alaska, the Fairweather also provides for crew comfort, while hearty meals bolster the morale. As life aboard ship takes on the form and semblance of a self-contained community. Although no longer armed with a shotgun for providing his own meat, the surveyor is still away from his loved ones for most of the summer. Daily radio contact is maintained with the Pacific Marine Center in Seattle, a service which Captain Richard Alderman finds especially valuable. And twice a day, weather observations are sent to the Coast Guard, since this area is not normally observed.
We don't have too much problem with morale. Most of the crew members are used to going to sea and being out for long periods, and our cruises aren't very rough, being that we go in every 2 weeks.
And overshadowing all is the destitute splendor of the ash-pocketed mountains looming in the Katmai National Monument, and the desolate valley beyond, the Valley of the 10,000 Smokes. Side benefits include capitalizing on fishing areas seldom visited, where almost every cast spells action in some form or other. Whenever possible, beach parties also help to let off steam. Then it's back to work again, each with an assigned task posted the night before on the duty roster. Loading batteries to be delivered to electronic equipment to some isolated checkpoint, usually at the top of a cliff and at the end of a hard climb. Or chauffeuring $150,000 worth of electronic gear disguised as a launch into some previously uncharted cove. Most of the seamen have prior marine experience. Some, like Ivan Williams, a native of Ketchikan, have been living, working, and playing in Alaskan waters since they were children. The sort of people who can handle themselves under almost any circumstance. For one never knows what's coming up next when dealing with Shelikof Strait. Nearing Seal Rock, an angry bull sea lion echoes a challenge to the intruders, but it's mostly show. One of the hazards which must be located and marked are rocks awash, such as this, which might not be visible at high tide.
If you can see it, you can get a good fix of it right there. And you know the stage of the time. And you just take your fix and record the time, and so you get the time stage. So then the chart will show a rock symbol. We have two kinds of rock symbols, one for rocks that are submerged, another is for rocks that bear.
Armed with previously acquired data, the Mini Ranger operator can also guide the launch back to submerged rocks, which lurk just below the surface. Computers notwithstanding, there are many hazards which must be verified in person. And for the ship's qualified divers, the day's assignment can be a wet one.
WTEB, this is FA4.
This is WTAB. Go ahead.
Divers have just entered the water.
Roger on that.
The main ship stands by. It makes use of being in the area by taking bottom samples. In addition to seismic reflection profiler, which shows sub-bottom geologic structure, gravity meters to measure the strength and direction of gravitational field. The Fairweather's on-station capabilities include Nelson bottled water sampling, bottom dredging, sediment grab, and core sampling. Launches take the samples in shallower water, but the ship's winch can go as deep as 1 mile. Following an east-west or north-south grid, samples are taken to provide information for various navigational, geologic, and environmental groups. Sample data is sent to the Smithsonian and kept on file for researchers' use. This information is also included on the finished chart. Information which can be used for anchoring purposes, for example, or oil exploration. Using a lead weight and a float attached to a line, the divers have marked the least depth of the rock for the benefit of the launch. In the old days, surveyors could only probe with a lead line and hope they'd hit the highest point.
Flat spot, about, what was that, about 80 feet? 90 feet. 85 to 90 feet. It's a long, flat valley, sort of,
Populated by stellar sea lions, this rookery probably contains 300 to 400 of them. Obviously upset by our intrusion, the females and pups enter the water first, while the bulls hold the fort. Lunch is taken at Amblick Bay, the mouth of Geographic Harbor.
We would try and pull into these little bays whenever we could, when it was convenient to have lunch or breaks. But, you know, we're usually further off from shore when lunch happened to fall, and we wouldn't often get to do this. But it makes a pleasant break in one day's routine.
If the methods have changed greatly over the years, the objectives have not. To provide those who use the ocean and the Great Lakes with a timely and complete report of the marine environment as it affects their safety and efficiency of operation. In the course of this survey, the Fairweather has compiled data on 100 miles of previously uncharted coastline. And in so doing, we'll open up the many bays and inlets to commercial fishermen, who then will have access to information heretofore unavailable. 11 out, 3 in. A way of life on the NOAA Ship Fairweather. 2 weeks of work, then 3 days of rest and relaxation. Hydrographic surveying is important to us in the Northwest. With all the open waterways and fantastic architecture of Mother Nature, an accurate nautical chart becomes as common and as necessary as a road map to a highway traveler, and can occasionally mean charting the uncharted. To chart the uncharted, turning hydrographic survey data into a completed nautical chart. A job requiring the tedium and accuracy of scientific measurements and countless man-hours to produce. But the NOAA Ship Fairweather manages the exactitude of hydrographic surveying and has a good time doing it, which is the ideal way to approach anyone's job. Next week, we bring you another exciting outdoor adventure. Until then, this is Don McCune reminding you that it's all on Exploration Northwest.